Warning, due to some language and subject matter, listener discretion is advised.
Back in the band days when I was making music, I was tempted to leave where I lived at in Omaha, Nebraska, and make Minneapolis, Minnesota my new home. Largely because of the good friends I made there and the music of the moment that we were in. On this episode of the podcast, I get the pleasure of talking to one of my good friends, James Clark, the lead singer of Fearless Records recording supergroup Kill the Lights. He takes a deep dive into the road that led him where he's at today, and we even share a little bit of a bond about how being dads kind of changed us over time. And we talk a little bit about how we defaced a cardboard cutout of a NASCAR star. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. James Clark, how the hell are you, man?
I am living the dream.
How long has it been since we've seen each other? 10 years?
I was going to say 10, right? 10.
I got to tell you, I've been excited about this all week. I took the family out to dinner tonight, and we drove separately. My wife and the kids drove separately. We ate supper, and I decided to kind of take the slow drive home, and I listened to the scope of your discography, everything I knew you from.
Say, how deep did you go, though? I mean,
I went as far as the Payback. I didn't go further than that, because what was your first Minneapolis band? 2 Ton Crutch?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I even remembered that. But I went as far back as the Payback, and I got to say, the scope of Kill the Lights, and I don't say this to dismiss any of your past projects, the scope of that band is so fucking huge, man.
It's exciting. I mean, it's just so, I mean, when you're playing with guys like the guys I'm playing with, I mean, it's awesome, right? So I get to play with like phenomenal musicians that have all been in super huge bands, and I'm kind of the lucky guy, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, just the level, right? Just the level it's kind of brought it to, you know? And so, I mean, I guess you talk about kind of the evolution of me doing band things from like the Payback, which was kind of a punk band, right? To kind of throw the fire. I mean, even 2 Ton Crutch, the first band was a rap rock band, right? So, I mean, it's like I've hit my genres, you know, but I think a lot of it's just really realistically like 20 years of singing and being part of it and finding my kind of my niche, right? And you know, I think it's Kill the Lights is kind of it's ramped up to that place where it's probably the best. Well, is the best stuff I've ever done, you know? So
absolutely, and that's kind of where we all want to end up. Let's kind of dig into the James Clark story a little bit. First and foremost, how the hell did you end up in Minneapolis?
So like even when I was 15, right? I was 15 years old, played my first show. Band called Agent Orange in England. And even then we did quite well for 15-year-olds, you know, and played some regional shows and did some stuff. And I'd always kind of like dreamed of coming to America and, you know, doing high school or college. So I was kind of lucky enough to get exchange student kind of scholarship thing to go to do a year of high school here, and played soccer and old hockey and everything and loved it. And then I had the opportunity to come back for college. So at that time, and then I'd it's kind of funny. This is in the days of a newspaper when people would put like an ad in for, hey, looking for a band member, right? And, you know, I had like a Rolodex, no cell phone. It was kind of old school. So I called up this number, and that's I got an audition for what was 2 Ton Crutch, and I kind of said to myself, if the band plays a show or gets a show, I'll stay in America. If they don't, I'm going to go back and go to college in England. So we got a show 2 weeks prior to me gonna leave, so I stayed. So that was kind of how and then, you know, I ended up going to University of Minnesota, graduated from there, but. And then was in bands kind of from that. So
you just gambled everything on one band and one show.
Literally. And then I came back. So when I came back, I was coming back for 1 semester of college, and that's when 2 Ton Crutch happened, right? And I was sleeping on a futon mattress, a gifted one, like on the floor. I had nothing. So I mean, I remember, but down in Uptown, we kind of lived just in ghetto part of Uptown, and I remember having to get the bus everywhere. I had no car. And I remember it was so cold the second day at college that I had the bus back, but I got off on the wrong stop and I got lost for like 45 minutes. It was minus 20 out. And like, it was not a good situation to be in. I was in super ghetto Minneapolis, and I was lost and I had no idea where I was going. And yeah, luckily I managed to walk around for 45 minutes and found the house. But this is like pre-cell phone, pre-map, anything, right? So yeah, so I guess I've got my dues in, right, when it comes to kind of time in and dealing with living on a futon mattress and nothing else. So
2 Ton Crutch, first band in Minneapolis. Talk a little bit about what kind of music you were making with 2 Ton Crutch, when you were making it, who were some of your influences at the time, and who were you playing with?
Yeah, so it was it was very Rage Against the Machine-esque orientated, rap rocky, I guess. It was a time, so the first ever national show we played was when Powerman 5000 were blowing up. And then we went on and played the next show. I think the next national show was with Mudvayne when they were doing LD50, when the album came out. And then we actually managed to pick up the same management as Mudvayne. And, so it was a time of like First Avenue, and there was a ton of stuff going on. And the music scene was really, really good. And, you'd have a Sunday show at First Avenue local and be 600 kids there. It was brilliant, So we kind of transpired from there, and we got some management, had a demo deal with kind of Sony, and then what else? We played like X Fest, and that's all. So that was a time when Papa Roach was just breaking, right? So we played the 10. Papa Roach played before us. We played second. That was kind of the trajectory of where that was going. And so obviously there's 2 twins in the band, Eric and Joe, and then another Eric. Still speak to him now. We actually played like a reunion show like 5-6 years ago for fun. It was a good time, But yes, good guys, and kind of separated. Joe and Eric had kids at the time. They were young to have kids, and had some focuses, all focus on the family, which is great. And we kind of went our separate ways. At which point, actually, I think I got let go from that band actually because Eric left. And then Eric and Joe formed Ginger Jake, if you remember that band.
Yeah.
So Amanda was better looking than me, and what can I say, So
well, I was just gonna say it's kind of hard to forget that band.
I couldn't compete with that. So
so it's kind of weird that band was going on at that point in time, because where I was living in middle of nowhere, Iowa, and I was kind of like centrally located in between Des Moines and Omaha. And so Omaha's kind of flagship band was 311. Des Moines' flagship band was Slipknot. So it was like, okay, do I move to Omaha and kind of pursue diversity, or do I move to Des Moines and become a nu metal guy?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the way it was back in that time, because I think we all have a rap rock band in our foot locker someplace. So, was the Payback the band that came after that?
Yeah. So the Payback was, so if you remember, Chris was in 2 Ton Crutch, which then became Ginger Jake. So I'd hired Chris, and then I got let go. But Noose and those guys in the Payback were at the time playing in a band called Fighting Tongues, which Jordis Unger was the singer of it, and Jordis went on to like The Voice and came in the top 5, I think, or whatever she did, right? So they were kind of in limbo about what they were doing there, and they'd been jamming, and then I just called Ping Chris, and I think we just said, hey, I should come and let's hang out, jam out or something, you know what I mean, along those lines. And I did that. You're going to get into that story about my first audition thing, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Tell the story of your first audition for the Payback. It is the best thing ever.
I never really hung out with a bunch of the guys before, so there's an Assay gas station up the street, so we're right by right downtown St. Paul. So we figured we'd go get a couple 40s, and we drink them. And this is like, so I downed like 2 40s straight away, and I'm like, had a pretty good buzz, to be honest, we're just crushing stuff. And I went to the bathroom to take a piss, but in fact followed through and shit myself. Shotted. So I had to basically take my underwear and throw them in the garbage, is what really happened there, and scoot back and just I think had shorts on awkwardly and pretend I didn't crap myself. But then we ended up going out that night I think maybe that's why they're like, hey, you could be in the band. I'm like, hey, just a heads up though, I did shit myself today. So like, oh, cool, thanks for sharing. But it was the shouting scenario of an audition. Yeah. So it was the pressure, I think, right? Just my bowels were loose.
Totally. So that was the band that I met you in, and I don't know what it was, but like when our group of friends got together, it was like Motley Crue. Like what did we call it? Motley Crue Saturdays or something like that?
Motley Crue Friday.
Yes, because I was in a band called Right Side Impact at the time, and we just kind of called our whole group the Right Side Payback.
Yeah.
We came up and we played a show with the band that you ended up in later on down the line. And we were all on a bill. It was Ginger Jake, Throw the Fight, the Payback, and us. And we just like made fast friends. We were like best friends overnight, and you guys came to Omaha a bunch of times. We came up to Minneapolis, and man, that was life. That was life. Now we're dads.
Were you there when we did that? When we stole, my uncle stole that Carl Edwards cutout.
Yes. That was in Omaha.
So this is my uncle coming from England, and he's hanging out, and he stole. And if you don't know who Carl Edwards is, he was a NASCAR guy, and he cut out. It's a cutout for. So we were in a bar, and he's walking down the street with a full size Carl Edwards. Do you remember what else happened then with Carl Edwards?
Oh, yes, I do. I think one of you guys put your nuts through Carl Edwards' mouth, and then Steve showed up and put his tongue in the cardboard cutout.
There was definitely a set of testicles, and then your band member's tongue in that. Yeah.
Do you remember spending hours and hundreds of dollars on 2-liter bottles of Diet Coke and Mentos?
Oh yeah, we blew them up, didn't we?
Oh shit! There's a YouTube video of us all partying together, and like it's got over 50,000 views or something like that.
Awesome. See, who'd have thunk it? We should have gone into that.
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories. I forgot about the Carl Edwards one. How did the payback come to an end? Is that something you're okay talking about?
Yeah. So I think realistically with that, I think it took its own natural course. I think Moose was maybe trying to do the Jordis thing. I think that was going down. I think Chris had left the band at that point. He had refocused his stuff and had enough, I think. So I think it just kind of ran its course, I think, to be honest, Again, I don't, Josh, I saw Josh a couple years ago, bass player, obviously, and then Corey, still on Facebook friends with him and that. So haven't seen Moose in a while, but obviously then I played with Chris and throw the fight later on, So. And
that's kind of where we're heading next. So you ended up as the third singer in Throw the Fight? I was
a second singer. Okay, so they had like an EP that was out, and then they got a record deal, and then I auditioned for what was the I think In Pursuit of Tomorrow was called, the record.
Yeah.
So they had all the music done, and I wrote the all the lyrical melody content and everything to that. So yeah, I kind of auditioned. The producers had me come in and do an audition for one of the songs and did that, and then went ahead and recorded it. So
right.
So it was so that was we had three, 4 albums, 3 albums, 2 EPs. So that was a good 10-year run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was gonna say, like, to me, listening to what it was In the Pursuit of Tomorrow, What Doesn't Kill Us, and Transmissions, right? Those were the 3 full-length albums.
Yep.
And the second album that you were on, What Doesn't Kill Us, John Feldman worked with you guys on it.
Yeah, he produced that in LA. Yep.
How is that working with Feldman?
He's a character for sure, right? So we recorded at his mansion in friggin' Beverly Hills. I can't remember where we're at, but it was right in the hills. It was gorgeous spot. You show up and we go to the front door and ring the doorbell and nobody answers. But we're just flown from Minnesota to come and record with you. So what do we do? Stand here? He wasn't answering his phone. So we kind of opened the door. It's walked in and he's randomly vacuuming everywhere. And he's like, "Hey, what's up?" We're like, "Hey, Throw the Fight, just checking in." He's like, "Come in, go in that." Sets us down with his engineer and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna start already." We're like, "Start already?" We just flown for 5 hours. We're like, "What?" It's midnight.
Oh,
we're
Jesus.
He's like, "Okay, cool, let's start demoing some stuff out." I'm like, "Fuck is this?" So yeah, it was kind of crazy. He's super intense, he kind of focused on drums and vocals a lot, and I had a great experience with him. He loved ping pong. I freaking played ping pong with him. He'd want to play a game all the time where you take your shirt off and you try and fire the ping pong at each other. It hits him. I kept hitting him. He had welts everywhere. And he was getting super pissed off. But he kind of brought out some cool. I wrote a couple different songs with him too over there. So it was kind of a crazy experience, but cool. Again, he'd been working with some huge bands at the time, so we were kind of a minor thing, I think, to him at that point. But it was a crazy, different, random experience too, and it's kind of part of the story, So
yeah, absolutely. And you got a fantastic cover of Cutting Crews,
Die in Your Arms here.
Yeah, on that album. So it's
I don't think he didn't want us to put that on the record either. So
that's crazy. I love Not So Hollywood. That was kind of your lead off single.
So I wrote that. I was sitting by his pool and I had 3 notes, and I'm not a guitar player, but I had 3 different chords. Sorry. And his engineer Brandon, who's gone on to engineer a ton of good stuff, and he's really talented writer in LA. I think he's in Nashville now. But he comes out and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I've got this idea of a song. He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." So it's 9 o'clock at night or something. And Ryan had flown off to Vegas for his anniversary. So me and him kind of programmed it and wrote the whole song in that night, and then presented it to the band in the morning. And it was written and recorded before Ryan even got back. So it was kind of one of those random, like, we're in the studio writing thing, and it worked out. So yeah, and it was just some 3 chords, and I had an idea, and
that's amazing.
The fun magic that happens with that kind of stuff. I love the studio, and that kind of, like, when you're fully engaged in Vienna to focus on stuff. I mean, that's the best place to be, So
absolutely. And the thing is, like, for 10-year run, 3 albums, do you have a personal favorite of those 3 albums?
I think the band was evolving really nicely. I mean, the Transmissions, that was with Carsten Slovak, and they do August Burns Red and all kinds of stuff, I like where that last record was going. I like the Feldman record because it's got its own spice too. And then the In Pursuit thing's got a bit of that kind of a bit more metal throwback to that too, So I guess Transmissions probably would have, there was an album I recorded that didn't get released, and there's some really good stuff on that too. But yeah, I mean, I think so. Probably Transmissions was probably my favorite. But
right. So my personal favorite of those 3 is actually the first one. Like, that became my workout album for probably 3 years straight. And I get that's a compliment to you, sir, because your lyrical content, there was something that seemed a little bit more stripped down than the other 2 albums on that. And that is what I really enjoyed about that. And that's the last band I was in, Ara Sing. We came to Minneapolis, and we played with you guys shortly after you had released that album. Okay. And so that kind of became our go-to album for a long period of time. So again, kudos to you. Great work, great lyrical content.
It's one of those things you're probably always going to deviate to your last record you like most, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that when that came out, I think that was a really good. We had some really good songs on that too, So
I got a funny story of my own. Of coming to play with you guys, coming to play with Throw the Fight. Right after you'd released that album, we came to Minneapolis. Arsing had only been around for not quite a year yet, but it was way more polished than Right Side Impact was. We just had our shit together. But again, the chaotic interludes that kind of came with all of us hanging out together took place then. Your brother was in town from England. And I racked up, we had free beer in the green room at the Fine Line, and we we're all just chugging that. Yeah. But I still managed to rack up a $200 credit card bill and buying shots with you, your brother, and me, because I was like, oh, it's Clark family reunion. Let's do some shots.
So we'll get into it. Obviously with the Dude band, but also we're going, I'm doing a European tour come up, and he's coming on that tour. So that's, yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's stuff that happened at our hotel room, like band guys were fighting, mooning each other, like walking through Taco Bell drive-thrus that I could tell you stories for hours on. But man, it just, I don't know, man, there's something contagious about hanging out with you, my brother.
It happens.
Let's fast forward to now. New band, or new-ish band, Kill the Lights.
Yep.
I have read about it online, not posted by the band, but posted by various media sources online. You guys are being called a supergroup. Let's talk about the thoroughbred that's running through that band.
The funniest thing about the supergroup terminology, right, is and there's I have to laugh. It goes so any big like media outlet that's called it the supergroup. It says featuring members of Bullet For My Valentine, Still Remains, Threat Signal, and others. Right, I am others. So apparently I'm not the collective super group, but we had to laugh at that. I'm like, I'm called ETC, etc. Right? Is really what it comes down to. But yeah, so I guess where that came from was we did a Bullet For My Valentine tour in 2013. We did that with Black Veil Brides and Bullet, and kind of broke down with the Bullet guys, connected with them. We made really good friends with them. I've been back to England. Obviously, they're all from Wales, so I'd been back at Christmas to England, and we hung out at Christmas with them and different things. My brother came down, and so always kind of kept in contact. And Moose, who is now my drummer, I posted something randomly on Facebook saying, "Hey, does anybody know any good singers?" That was it. I'm like, so I kind of like, do I say anything? Like, what are you? Do you have a friend that's looking for something? He's like, actually, I'm putting together a band. I'm like, oh. He's like, do you want me to send you some tracks? I'm like, sure. So really, it came down. He sent me the first track I got, and him and Jordan had been writing. which is my guitarist, he sent me the Faceless, which was the first single we released. But that was what I demoed with, and I recorded that. It's pretty much exactly the same as it is now.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I mean, kind of out the blue, random opportunity that, think you look at life, you sometimes, that comes from a message I sent him, you know what I mean? It's crazy how that pans out. But, kind of fast forward, we end up doing a bunch of writing sessions. Georgia and Michigan, so Moose would fly out, we do writing sessions, and then end up connecting with Colin, producer Colin Richardson, who did, Slipknot, Trivium, all the early Bullet stuff. I mean, the list goes on. He did Machine Head's Davidian, that early album.
Yeah.
I mean, so Burn My Eyes album, sorry. We went out to England for 3 weeks at a time. We did it twice, and just no pressure recorded the record, and then picked up management too, and everything else that goes with it. And next thing you know, we got, we're lucky enough to get offered a deal from Fearless. So
do you think because of the way the industry has changed and the technology has changed, doing a cross-continental project like this is a lot easier now than what it would have been, say, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, we literally all go into different studios. I mean, right now we've got about 25 songs demoed for album 2.
Oh, wow.
And then it's like 16 more songs I haven't got vocals on yet.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to ask how much of the writing is actually physically done together, or is it just components that you guys are doing?
I guess COVID stuff for us, right? Which kind of put a shitter on everything. But we traditionally would write. So we wrote like 4 or 5 of the songs together, and then some of the other stuff was in studio while we're recording the album itself and other like components of putting it together, So for us, we've kind of been a bit used to being all in different places writing anyway, and you'd be surprised how many bands are actually doing it that way. But what you miss is that kind of collective, like, hey, we'll try it this way, or drop a measure here, or add a measure, or try it this way. Which when somebody sends you a final product, it's hard to be like, hey, dude, can you try it this way? And it's like it's a lot more work to do it that way, But unfortunately, you've got a guy in like Utah, Michigan, Wales. Chris is in Blackpool, England, and then I'm here. It could be difficult, but luckily, so obviously our bass player Chris, who also is an engineer and he works with Colin, so Chris is a phenomenal engineer too, and so he's been working on the Machine Head stuff. He's got a ton of stuff going on too, but he's also phenomenally talented, and also Jordan can write stuff, and then Travis, who's in Threat Signal, is a phenomenal guitar player as well. And Moose programs his drums, so it's just like, it's working, you know what I mean? So we are trying to get together kind of August as stuff's opening up now a little bit, you know what I mean, to try and do a couple writing sessions, because with the aspiration of kind of going back in the studio at the start of next year already with a producer.
Right. So how close to whenever you released that initial set of tracks and COVID happening, how close together was that?
So I think we released the Faceless was released, I think, in February. This is a year before COVID hit.
Right.
And then we basically got off it. We negotiated a record deal for about 6-7 months after that. So we'd done the record, everything was done. We had that interest, we negotiated, it took quite a while. And everything, started prep with all the press and started with videos and everything else too. It was just ramping up to be it was going to be released in June, would have been June 2019, I think.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I put it back got put back a ways because we got added to like Download Festival, which is like probably the biggest European, like as a kid, I grew up in England. That was like my dream to play it. And I've been on that bill 3 years in a row right now, and I have not played it yet. So
fuck. Jeez.
This is a 2022, so we're on it for 22, right? So the billing flyer looks really good on my wall, but I've never played it yet. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so we ended up releasing it in August. This last August, it was no point in sitting on it. We had a lot of new material. And obviously the response was really good. We had some really good. Sales were really good too, and everything was great. Unfortunately, we couldn't tour on it. So like that's it's this is my irony. Like I've spent my whole life working to get to that, and then COVID hits. So
it's one of those things though. If you sit on material for too long, sometimes it starts to date itself.
Well, what are we gonna do? Just sit on it for another year and wait?
Right. Just release it and move on and allow yourself to evolve.
Yeah. So we've had a couple. We did we had a couple covers. We've had a Testament cover and a Metallica cover release as well, which is kind of fun. You know, we kind of got that. I guess we have that kind of thrash influence, you know, throwback vibe with a bit of that modern sound too, which you know, we're trying to keep to that too, because I think, and there's nothing wrong with the modern sound of bands too, but everybody's, to me, there's a lot of the same sounding stuff, and it's nice to try and deviate a little bit away from that and kind of create your own niche, you know. So
and you guys are doing a great job of that, because kind of doing that throwback sound to a certain extent with modern production is huge. I mean, it kind of goes to what I was talking about, the scope of this band, how big it actually sounds, and that's really more the point. You know, I would listen to some of your early stuff and I'm like, man, this is some good shit. And then I'd go to the Kill the Light stuff, and it was like I was drowning in the sound. It was so good. So do you find that doing these musical projects, do you find that you kind of outgrow the projects, or sometimes outgrow the people that are a part of the projects? Do they have a natural lifespan?
I think, you know, you've been in bands, right? And it just does. People have lives going on, and everybody has different priorities. And I think that could be the case with every scenario. I think realistically, in the past, we've tried as hard as possible to get where you want to go. And as you know, the music industry is a really difficult place to get kind of navigate through. You know, so yeah, I mean, I think most bands do. You know, luckily, I think with this most recent scenario, we've got a really good. Everybody's really chill, a really good balance, and there's no ego there. And you know, to be honest, I'm playing with guys that have had a lot of success before. So they've been there and kind of done it, which is really nice. You know what I mean? So, you know, and again, it's just around having opportunities present themselves too that maybe I didn't have before, which is really cool. So that's the main thing here, and just, you know, touring opportunities and radio opportunities and correct label opportunities and correct management, and you know, the team we have put together is awesome, and it's kind of stuck with us through COVID, and it's been super positive. So
with this new project, how has the industry changed from when you started to where it's at right now, from your experience?
Yeah, so it's funny. So back, you remember Napster days, obviously, when so what's crazy about that is, Two Ton Crutch, the original band, was featured on Napster, and we were getting hundreds of thousands of streams. Like I guess at that time would be a stream, right, or downloads or whatever else too. And we had like a big news interview where obviously Metallica was suing them, and we were the opposite, where we're like, oh, we're embracing it because we're getting this crazy exposure, you know. So, you know, that was a time when bands were getting legitimate deals and having legitimate money and making legitimate sales, and they could, you know, they could rely on an advance, they could live off an advance, and they were getting crazy tour support and crazy promo money. And I mean, that was pretty inflated, all of that stuff, but the money was still really there. Whereas now it's changed so much that it's, you know, it's really around mostly touring where your revenue is coming from, you know. And I mean, streaming's good, but it doesn't provide a really solid, unless you're getting crazy numbers, a solid income on that, you know. So it's really changed, right? It's become a lot more difficult, and things are harder. And so as a new band, you have a lot more opportunity to be exposed, because there just is the platforms now where there was not those platforms previously, you know. And you can go into an okay studio and spend $5,000 on a really good sounding record now, whereas it would have cost you $30,000 before. So, you know, so it's pros and cons. As a startup, you know, to get exposure to be a startup artist, a lot easier, you know. And if you have the right songs and, you know, the right thing going for you, you're fine. But again, because there is 1,001 options, it's kind of harder too, though, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's good and bad at the same time, and difficult, and you know, unfortunately, I think, you know, whether it's, you know, artists or whether it's road crew or whether it's kind of venues right now, it's been a really crap 18 months.
So, do you think that downloading and piracy is what ultimately crippled the business, or do you think it was a combination of things?
Combination of things. I think the industry didn't help itself either, did it? So
yeah,
I think that's really what it was. I mean, I think if the industry had been a bit more flexible and more open to it, they could have, in a not negative way, controlled how that would have been taken care of, and ensured that the artist itself would actually go paid.
Yeah, I share that same sentiment. I've had a long-standing theory, and I could spend hours going into this too, about how there were a lot of stunt signings, particularly late 90s, early 2000s, where you'd find a band of one genre that was kind of good. So you signed every band that sounded like that band in the genre. So the next thing you know, these record labels which are essentially banks, because they're loaning people money, oversigned people at the same time the internet was happening and downloading was happening. So they didn't exploit the boom in the right ways, where more money could have been done in development, more money they could have done the streaming thing years ago.
Yeah, they resisted it, because they used a traditional form of CDs, records, whatever else too, right? And I think had they took a hard look at that, they could have created platforms that would have fairly paid people, but allow people the access to it. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I do think that they missed the boat on that one a little bit. You know what I mean?
Since we hung out last, and over our time in bands and not in bands, we both have become dads.
True.
How has that changed you?
I guess it's like if I look back to if you remember, I don't know if you remember, I had cancer 11 years ago, right?
Yes, I do.
So like for me, that was like a huge, probably a life-changing thing, right? Just it makes you reflect on who and what you've done. And I said to myself, I'm like, God, I just wanted to be a dad. That's the only thing I really want to be in life, was a dad, and get married. And so I had to question, or it was a challenge to even know if I was going to get to do that, So luckily, I was blessed that I managed to get through that. And I think that really made me change my perspective on what I wanted in life and how I was going to go about doing it and how I treated people. And, again, I was a 20-year-old kid just doing a 20-year-old thing, right? You just don't think about stuff, but when you have to stop and really take check on stuff, it's really eye-opening. So I think that really just set me up to put me in a place to want to have a wife and kids and all those good things too. And I was lucky enough to meet my wife, who's a teacher, and she's freaking awesome and super fun, and I just like being around her. And we have been blessed to have 3 children. So I got a nearly 8-year-old, and nearly 5-year-old, and a 17-month-old. So we kept trying for the girl. We got the girl on the third one. So, but because like we're doing a podcast at 8:30 because I had to put them to bed. But so whilst doing the band thing is phenomenal, it's also phenomenal being a dad. And I got both my boys are in hockey, and they're both in football, and they've been baseball, and I love all that stuff. I'm at every practice, and I just love doing it. And it's super fun. We live in a really cool community, and we're in River Falls. We're in Wisconsin, but we're just 30 minutes away from Minneapolis. So small town, but it's got a small town vibe, but all the fun stuff. And yeah, it's like I said. So I have two very different things going on, right? With family life and then band stuff, and so I'll go to a podcast and talk about rock and roll, and then I'll go and change a diaper.
Well, that's your wife just got her master's degree, didn't she?
Yeah, she's freaking awesome. So she went back. She was pregnant when she went back, and then had the baby. COVID hit, right? She went through all this. She's dealing with 3 kids plus the 4th kid, which is me, and managed to navigate through, homeschooling, through everything really. She's very humble, but she went through 2 years of college and dropped 1 point in 2 years. That's how good she did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so amazing, right? To be able to do that. So again, she, we didn't meet through the band. It's nothing to do with that, and it's really cool. She has her own life and is really successful in what she does, and it was pretty cool. It's funny now because obviously I meet dads, right? So they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Play in a metal band." And they're like, "No, funny, cool. What do you do?" I'm like, I do play in a metal band. I was wearing a Suicidal Tendencies hat, and one of the dads at football practice was like, "You get that from Hot Topic or something? You trying to look like you're 21?" I'm like, "No, actually, I like the band. I play in the band, But it's just funny. Nobody expects that that's what I'm going to say. So it's been pretty funny when people are like, "So you play in a cover band?" Or yeah, I'm not really a cover band. No, it's more of a straight metal. You go watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What is their reaction when they see what you're actually doing? Because I'm sure
they're super weirded out. Yeah. They're like, that's not what I expected. That is different. Yeah.
Right. Well, and the thing is it's not like you're showing them some guy from your neighborhood on video camcordering you, you're showing them some high level, high production shit. Yeah. So yeah, that's
definitely throws people off.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I've been out of it for so long that there's people in my life that have known me for, 9-10 years that have no idea that I even ever played in bands. So it's crazy, man. So European tour coming up in September?
November.
Yep.
So that's with Believe From Within, and a band called Ingested. If you haven't checked out Believe From Within, that super solid band, really, really good. They're from Scotland. And we're literally starting in Cologne, Germany on the 2nd. And then we hit Paris, Barcelona, Prague. It's every cool European spot for like 4 weeks. And it goes through the UK, England, and then ends in their hometown of Glasgow on the 27th, So my brother is coming with us. So I'm not sure if he's going to be minding me or I'm going to be minding him, like how it's going to really work. But
well, man, you got them dad vibes now, so I bet you'll be watching him.
Probably. Well, he's got kids too. So.
Oh, he's got kids. Oh shit.
Yeah, he's married with kids and everything else too.
Oh no, that's bad because that means you both won't. Neither one of you are going to be watching the other one. So here's
a fun thing, and that like the awesome part of getting a chance to do that is that I get to hang with my brother for a month, you know what I mean? And traditionally, I haven't been back in 18 months with COVID stuff. So it's going to be super fun to hang out and see the family too and have friends, all around Europe come go to shows and all that kind of stuff. And then we have a headlining run in next March of 22 that got put back, and that's a full UK run as well. So that's exciting. And then we should be then hopefully we'll be hitting the US kind of in April, May, and then hit the festival season in Europe. So stuff's lining up really nicely. So we're excited obviously to get out and play these songs.
I'm sure.
Yeah, the aim is to go back in the studio to do the album too, I think in January. So
yeah. So is there any place on your itinerary in November that you've never been before that you're super excited about? Any one specific place?
Yeah, there's quite a few random European spots I haven't been to, right? We even announced the festival date in Switzerland. I've never been there. I think that'd be cool. But like Prague's supposed to be sweet. I've been to Barcelona, but that's a sweet spot. Just a bunch of really cool. And some like off places. Berlin's another one that added to. So just all like the major European cities, but then some minor ones that would be sweet. Just the experience is cool. You know what I mean? So I basically get paid to go around and go to Europe for a month for free. How cool is that?
That's fantastic, man. So, I love it. I love it all. Yep. I don't know if you hear this very often, but I got to tell you, man, I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud to know you. I'm super proud to know you as long as I've known you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again someday.
Yeah.
I hope that US run comes sooner rather than later.
I'll make sure to bring your Kyle Edwards cut out as well,
Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you.
Yep, appreciate it.
You can find Kill the Lights on all major streaming platforms right now. And I suggest you do that. I suggest you go check them out right now. And if you're interested in checking out some of James' past work with the band Through the Fight, check out the albums In Pursuit of Tomorrow, What Doesn't Kill Us, and Transmissions. My personal favorite is In Pursuit of Tomorrow. That was my workout jams for a long time. Hey friends, I really appreciate you sticking with me, and make sure you give me a like, follow, subscribe on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I've even got a YouTube channel, and I need some subscribers on all of these. Make sure you give the podcast a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And I'm always willing to talk to you. Shoot me an email, caughtonthemic@gmail.com. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.